Hello, everybody. I am so happy to be here and to join Lemonade 5, Cinco de Marzo. I was very excited when I got the call from Alan and he asked me to come and speak to you. And we talked about some different options for presentations, something about running a law firm from the inside, from the CLM side. And where we finally landed was the top 10 attributes for success. Why are we talking about these? Because it's useful to everyone. Thanks, Rich, that's perfect. It's useful to everybody. So what we were hoping was that everyone could get something out of, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this like I have for 26 years or even longer. When I started to put this together, I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't have enough material. And then I started to think my way through all the places I've been successful, all the places I've failed, and all the things that I continue to struggle with today. And then I realized I actually have plenty of material on this. So you're going to hear me talk about a lot about attorneys. You're going to hear me talk a lot about their personalities, the best way to interact with them. It's important to know that I love what I do, and I love attorneys. I'm not saying anything that's negative. I am, in fact, married to an attorney. So I get no break, day or night. I am perpetually surrounded. The things I'm saying really aren't meant to be negative. They're just facts. Facts about the personality type that tends to go into law and the subsequent training that they get thereafter. So we're going to talk about the business of running a law firm, the top 10 attributes for success, and I'm going to do this David Letterman style. So we're going to count up from the number 10. Are you ready? Number 10. There, ownership mentality. Okay, so this for me works really well when you come into this role, and if you're new, this is especially important. This is a career. This is not a job, and it is not for the faint of heart. Everything we do is deadline driven. The work that has to get done when it has to get done. That's the client expectation from the attorneys. That's what the attorneys expect from you. Now, I'm not saying you should give up your personal life. In fact, we're going to touch on that a little bit later. We're definitely not saying that. But you have to think of the firm as your own firm. You have to think like a partner, like you own the firm. And I know that sounds unfair because you're not an owner. And with the ethics rules in the US, unless you're an attorney, you can never be an owner. That means you don't get to share in the ownership, profits, and success in the same way. But it's the best way for you to be successful in your role. If you adopt an ownership mentality, then it's going to help you see the firm from their point of view, from the partner's perspective, which is going to help you understand why they want to do things in certain ways sometimes. That's really helpful. When I find myself thinking about it, I say things like, well, my clients don't drink from paper cups. My clients get a real mug. Or my employees deserve honest evaluations, even if they're not people who report to me. So thinking of the firm as yours, when you walk in the door and look around the room like it's your home, what does it look like? What's the appearance? This is my firm. As a bonus, that's going to help you when you have to say no to a partner request. Because again, you're going to understand where they're coming from. You'll be able to explain the no. It's going to make you less adversarial. So the first one is ownership mentality. Next, we have creativity. Now, this may sound crazy because the best value you can bring to your firm is an original idea. Why? Because lawyers want to make decisions based on what other lawyers are doing. It's all about the precedent, right? So how many times have you come with the easiest, smallest question, and the first thing you hear is, well, what are the other firms doing? What are other lawyers doing? Michael said that I've been a lot of places. A lot of you may know I spent 11 years in Bangor, Maine. And when we had a snowstorm and we talked about closing early for snow, the first thing I would hear is, well, what are other firms doing? You can't make a decision about closing for snow. Our ALA chapter had a whole email string that would go back and forth about who was doing what, so we could all look educated about who was doing what for snow. Perfect, yes, thank you, appreciate that. Yes, of course, in Portland they're doing this, but in Bangor they're doing that. Why does it matter? You should be able to make your own decisions. The same is true when you work with vendors. Don't try to use a vendor that doesn't have a list of law firm references, because we have to do what the others are doing. Now, that's fine in the examples that I just gave you, but what about with marketing? What about with employee benefits? How are you going to differentiate yourself if all you ever do is, we're going to go back one, whoops, we're good. If all you ever do is the same thing that everybody else does, that every other firm does, how are you going to differentiate yourself? I promise you, if you ask what makes your firm different, you're going to hear, well, we have great, well-educated attorneys. We focus on client service, and we have a strong collaborative culture. Those are not unique selling points. Congratulations, you just described every one of your competitors. So the question is, what new idea can you bring to the table? How can you help your firm attract and retain clients and talent? And that's by bringing creative ideas. That's how you're going to differentiate yourselves. Whether they know it or not, your firm needs you to bring those creative ideas. Now, I'm also going to tell you that creativity feels really scary in a law firm. It's scary to bring the idea, and it's scary for them to approve it. So don't be discouraged if they get shot down, even if it's for no apparent reason, right? I have absolutely heard, Maria, that's a great idea. We're not going to do that. And that's it, the end. So don't let that discourage you. Just keep bringing the creative ideas, because that is what your firm needs. Number 8, and this is what we were just talking about, is courage or bravery. So I want to talk about this. This is for the new people, the people who are new to the profession especially. No one tells you this when you join a law firm, but here's the elephant in the room. Working for attorneys can be downright scary. If you're someone who never feels that, great. You can check that off. But for the rest of us, the other 98% of the people here, I am here for you. I hear you. You have to deliver bad news. You have to deal with angry lawyers, and you're going to be put on the spot a lot. There's also the public speaking component that goes with this job, which a lot of times people don't realize. It's a big part of what we do. We're constantly making presentations to groups of people. You're presenting a financial report, or perhaps you're explaining some complex changes in your health insurance. Or sometimes, the really hard ones, it's when you're presenting that new idea that we just talked about, and you're putting yourself on the line in a public speaking situation. For people who don't like public speaking, which, let's be honest, is most people, this is the thing you hate most about your job. And if that's you, I'm going to try to give you some tips during this presentation that will help you get past that. This is the first one. My first tip is just fake it. If you're nervous, act like someone who's not nervous. What would they do? Watch other people, watch TED Talks, be an actor and inhabit a character of someone who's not nervous. Get outside your own head and pretend you're unfazed. Nobody needs to know you went back to your office and hyperventilated after the meeting. You're good then. While we're talking about it, I want to be very clear about what it means to be brave. Being brave does not mean being fearless. In fact, that's the opposite of being brave. Because if you're fearless, then you don't need courage. Being brave means being afraid and doing the thing anyway. So if any of you get scared and then you get in your head and you tell yourselves that that means you're not brave, that's just false. If you feel fear and you pick your head up and you move forward anyway, congratulations, Lion, you have courage. Confidence is number 7. Now, I know you're going to say confidence is the same thing as courage, but it's not. It goes hand in hand, but they're different things and equally important. In a law firm, you're working with a very specific population. You're surrounded by people whose job it is to be smarter than everybody else. That's their whole job, to be smarter than everybody else. They went to school to learn to be smarter than everybody else. So when they come into interactions with you, they're going to come in presuming that they're smarter. That's not a flaw. I'm not picking on attorneys. It's actually what makes them great attorneys. But you need to know that, and you need to come into those interactions precisely the same way. You're not there to plan a legal strategy. You're not there to edit a brief. So They're not smarter than you. Your role is to help them with the business of running a law firm. And you are an expert in that area. I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody else. The fastest way to gain the respect of the leaders in your firm is simply to assume it. I don't mean you should be cocky. I'm not saying that. And you should always be the first person to point out your own mistakes. But when I say you should assume it, what I mean is that when you walk in the room, you have to believe that you belong there. But in addition to that, you know there are going to be some people in the room who think you don't belong there, or who aren't sure yet whether you belong there. Forget about them. When you walk in the room, you assume that everybody in the room also believes you should be there. And what that will do is it will help you not try to prove yourself. Just assume you belong there, assume the things you have to say have merit and weight, and assume that everybody else believes that too. That is the quickest way to gain their respect. When it comes down to it, confidence is all we sell in law firms. The fact that your attorneys believe that they can get the best possible result for their clients is why they get hired. So when you're there, if you want their respect, you have to sell confidence too. All right, number 6, are we ready for it? Preparation. Was anyone else here a Girl Scout? Be prepared, it's the Girl Scout motto. Seriously, this goes back to what I was just saying about confidence, and you'll see that these things all tie together as we walk through them. I just told you that attorneys tend to believe they're smarter than everybody else, which means they're going to ask you questions that they think you may not be able to answer. Now, don't misunderstand me. They want you to be able to answer them. They're happy when you can answer them. This isn't about trying to trick you. They're not mean, they're not unkind. It's just the way they were taught. Everyone who goes to law school is taught using the Socratic method. So as a very, very boiled down explanation, what I'm going to tell you is they're going to ask you open-ended questions that require you to justify your reasoning. Has anybody else ever gotten this? Is that the best way to do that? What kind of a question is that? There's no good answer to that question. If I say yes, then I'm eliminating all the possibilities that I may not have thought of. If I say no, I've just shot myself in the foot for the thing I'm presenting. So you have to say things like, it's the best way that I've come up with. I don't know if it's the best way, but it's a very good way, and here's why. Or turn it back around. Can you think of any other better ways to do that? And that will help you engage with them because you are going to be on the spot. The idea is to find gaps in your knowledge, in the logic you've used, with the absolutely legitimate purpose of improving and refining your position. So don't take it as an attack. Don't take it as your knowledge being questioned. It's really to improve your position. Now look, being on the other end of that questioning is hard. It's really hard. So when you find it hard, I don't want you to lose that confidence we just talked about. So this is my next tip, and this is, again, the best way to manage this process is to over-prepare. Spend a ton of time in the material. Think about it, talk about it, get excited about it. Try to think of the questions people may raise. If I'm rolling out a new initiative, I usually have a list of things in my head that, well, I don't really want to talk about them, and I don't want people to raise them. I think they might. If they raise the idea, if they ask the question, then I can speak about it as if I'm aware because I'm prepared. The more prepared you are, the more weight your analysis will carry. I will say I just had an experience in a meeting with an attorney with whom I've developed this relationship. He has put me on the spot multiple times. He's an accounting geek like I am. He's put me on the spot multiple times about stuff. I was presenting our budget and going over some of the details. He raised his hand in a full shareholder meeting. He raised his hand and he asked me, I don't even remember what it was, but he asked me if I had considered a specific thing, which I had, of course. So I said yes, and I explained it. And then I looked at him and I said, come on, Ed, you know me, you know I did that. And he said from the back of the room, I know, I knew that'd be your answer. I just wanted everybody else to hear it. So when you develop those relationships, when they start to trust your analysis, they will actually work toward your success. I want to say one other thing, and that is this. If somebody asks you a question and you don't have an answer, that's okay. There's always going to be somebody who thinks of something that you didn't. Guess what? That's the whole point of the Socratic method. So it's really fine to acknowledge that that's something you didn't consider. The important thing is to remember that just because you don't have an answer to every question does not mean that you don't know your material. Don't get hung up on that. It just means that someone else had a good thought too. That's not just okay, that's great. That makes you better. That makes your idea more successful. That's what you want. But it's so much easier to feel that and to manage that anxiety if you're prepared. Okay, we are halfway through the list. Rich, you good? Can we flip off the slide so I can see everybody? I just want to know, like, how is everybody doing halfway? Are there any surprises here? Anything you didn't expect or anything that really resonates with you so far? And you can drop it in the chat if you want to, or you can turn yourself off mute and sing it out.
I enjoyed the reminder. There was something you said, and I'm like, sometimes I think I know, so I don't always maybe spend as much time as I should preparing. So I'm like, and you know that. So it was so good to hear that. It's all stuff I know, but it's so good. Sometimes we have so many areas we cover. And so it's great to get those reminders. It's like, you need to slow down, you need to do that. So thank you. It's very great information.
Great, thank you, Vicki. I appreciate it. Anybody else? I see Irene and Stacy weighing in and feeling more confident. So that's great because that's exactly what this is supposed to be about, is helping everybody get in and be more successful. Different point of view. Oh, Lori Salyards. Hey, Lori, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad that you're seeing it from a new point of view because we all come at it differently and we all have different things we think are important. So it's helpful to me to hear what other people think as well. Let's go back to the presentation and we are going to go to the next 5. Number 5, flexibility. And oh boy, do we have to be flexible. In fact, we have to be flexible for everyone else around us most of the time. Why? Well, in part, and I say this with all the love in the world, because attorneys are some of the most inflexible, change-averse people you will ever meet. Again, I'm not trash talking the attorneys. It comes from building a risk management-based career that's based on precedent. Unfortunately, what that means is that if you're trying to be creative and differentiate yourself, you may not be able to do it by following the simplest, most efficient path, even if you know that's the best way to get there. Because you may have to take a detour along the path of the way we've always done it. That doesn't mean you can't get to the new goal. It just means that you may have to get there the hard way. So, you just gave your firm a great creative new idea that will differentiate you in the marketplace. And you did a ton of preparation, so you knew your material cold. You faced your fears walking into the room, and because you were confident, you knocked it out of the park. When you left the meeting, you were on top of the world. And then your managing partner came along and said, okay, but wait a minute. You still have to use this old process. We still have to do this thing. Really? It can be so easy to get so invested in what you know is the best way to move forward that you stop seeing the big picture win. The big picture win is the support for your eventual goal. That's when you need to be flexible. Because usually, if you can get to the new goal and demonstrate its success, the old things will fall away. But you can't be rigid about how you get there. Sometimes you have to do it the long way. As a side note, and this will come as no surprise to most of you, people who work in law firms for years take their cues from the attorneys and from the culture. So it's also true that career paralegals, assistants, even accounting employees can be equally rigid and committed to the precedent. And moving them along to do things in a different way can be hard. So when you find ways to keep yourself flexible, when you find ways to say, I don't want to do it this way, I want to do it my way, but I know that I can't, remember that you also may have to train your employees to implement those things as well. Now that's where real change management techniques would come into play. I'm not going to talk about change management. That's a whole presentation by itself, but I would encourage you to look into it and to really find those ways that you can implement in your firm to help people stay flexible. Number 4 is self-respect. And you guys, this is a huge one. It goes with confidence and it goes with some other things that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but it's its own thing and it's really important. You have to have self-respect. A law firm is a high-pressure environment. Clients are becoming increasingly demanding, and that's not just lip service, that's actually true. Between the expectation of immediate accessibility, the ability to Google things for themselves and then they think they know the law, and AI tools that are now available, clients are truly more demanding than ever before. And that impacts everybody in a client-facing role, which includes the attorneys, the paralegals, the assistants, and that can all roll downhill to you. Now, lack of respect happens in 2 ways. One is really obvious, and the other one is really sneaky. The first is probably what you're expecting. People who are under pressure lash out at you. They may yell, they may call you names, they may throw things. I'm not making that up. Unfortunately, that sometimes happens in front of other people, in front of your staff. I have absolutely been cursed out by an attorney in front of my employees. For some reason, I see people, I've known people who allow themselves to be treated that way. They allow themselves to be treated in the office in ways they would never allow for in their personal lives. You put your head down and you keep going, but it's not okay. You can't allow it. So my advice here is to know your value. Know your value as an employee, know your value as a person. And depending on the nature of the interaction, what happened, the relationship you have, say something to either the person who did it or to your managing shareholder or whomever makes sense. Also, if it was your managing shareholder who treated you that way, my advice to you is to find a new job, because at that point, you are never going to be successful. But don't let it go. Address it clearly and confidently. I don't intend to spend my time in a place where that is how I'm treated. That's what I would say. I told you, I've been cursed out. I will also tell you that based on how I handled it, the partner was very apologetic. He was very aware of what he had done. And while it took quite a while, we developed an exceptionally strong relationship, he and I. So strong that while I will tell this story to anyone, I will never name the person, because I know I have lots of friends who would jump in to protect me. I want to protect him from that judgment because we developed such a strong relationship thereafter. So it can be done. That's the obvious way that we talked about. The sneaky, less apparent way is much more insidious, and that's in the kind of work that you're expected to do. It happens either because you're asked to do something once or because you see something and it needs to be done, and so you just take care of it. What happens, though, the problem is that becomes the expectation. And that's when you get into trouble, because then everybody thinks that's the work that you do. And I'm going to give you an example of that. That example is, okay, great, I have to hurry. That example is I once prepared documents for a meeting that was offsite, and they were all being delivered to the people attending the meeting to take with them the next day. They were being delivered the day before. I got 2 requests. One came from a partner who said, I'm going to be in an all-day hearing. I'm not going to be here to get the documents. Can you bring them to me? The other came from a partner who did not feel like bringing his own binder. And these were big, heavy binders. So he said, I don't want you to bring me the binder. Can you just bring it to me tomorrow? Well, the answer to those questions was absolutely yes to the first one, because you're not going to be here. Of course, I'll bring you the binder. And absolutely no to the second one, because I am not a Sherpa. And that partner was just as capable of carrying that binder as I was. Now, that sounds like a stupid thing. Why does it even matter? It matters because then he's going to ask the next time, and then the next time. And then other people are going to see that, and they're going to ask. And the next thing you know, I'm bringing all the binders. And now I'm the girl who carries the binders. So then when I have one of those great ideas that I want to move forward in a better way of doing things, I'm not going to get the level of respect that the role deserves because I'm the girl who carries the binders. So you have to get yourself out of that. You have to make them see you, see your role in a way they would never ask you to do that. The same way they would never ask another attorney to bring their binder. So that lack of self-respect or lack of respect is much more insidious, but actually more dangerous. Identity and well-being. Now this immediately follows self-respect, but it's not the same thing. And holy cow, have I lived this. Please don't do some of the things I've done over the course of my career. One thing that's important to know, for most attorneys, their whole identity is bound up in being an attorney. It's not their job, it's not their career, it's who they are. Don't do that. Don't be that person. You are not a law firm administrator or an executive director first. You're a parent, a spouse, a friend, a baton twirler, I don't know, but you're a lot of things that are not your job. And it's so easy to lose sight of that. And put yourself, your professional priorities, and everybody else's self-inflicted crises ahead of your own life. Don't start thinking in 6-minute increments, at least when you're not at work. It's really hard not to do. Here's the example, right? The dryer says it will be finished in 18 minutes. What thing can I accomplish in 18 minutes before I have to fold the laundry? Now you've put yourself under pressure to find something that will take enough time that you're not wasting the 18 minutes, but also maximize your efficiency by not taking too long. Wouldn't it be kinder to yourself to just say, the dryer's not quite done. What do I want to do next? And leave the timing open-ended. If you can figure out how to do that, that's a win. If you can figure out how to do that at work, I want your number because I can't do it. I still struggle with that every day. In addition, I want to talk about food and respecting your body, especially for my friends who are new to this industry. I don't care how strong your wellness program is. I don't care how healthy the snacks are in your break room. A law firm will provide you with a steady diet of leftover catering and homemade baked goods. Just say no. The free food is not worth the impact on your body. Also, really try to eat food at something near a normal mealtime. I was 2 months into my first law firm job and under so much time stress one day that the first thing I ate was microwave popcorn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that my assistant popped and put on the desk in front of me. That was the beginning of a lot of years of not treating my body well. Don't do it. I bring food, I keep it at my desk. Sometimes I don't even have time to walk to the kitchen to get something, but at least I always have it. In addition to food, we could talk about sleep and the fact that we never get enough sleep, water intake, and importantly, alcohol and substance abuse. Law firms are awash in alcohol. We all know that. It's a serious problem in the industry, and there's not enough time or energy spent talking about the impact on the staff. We talk about it on the attorney side a lot, but it's almost as true on the staff side. So just be very aware of what you're doing and how you're taking care of your body. You're only at your best when you're at your best. Number 2 is ethics, and this is actually the most important thing I'm going to talk about today. I'm switching gears because I really want you guys to hear this. You have to have a set of ethical standards that you are strong enough to hold yourself to. And I hear you saying, yes, Maria, that's true in all of life. That's true in every business or professional role. And I agree. But I'm not talking about keeping client information confidential. I'm not talking about not committing a HIPAA violation. You all know that. You're all smart enough not to do that. I'm talking about the ethics of how the law firm is run. This is usually going to come out either from HR or from finance. In an HR context, you will at some point be asked to do something that, while it's legal, it's just not right. For example, we want to bring somebody in for a project that we expect will last about a year, but we're worried we won't find somebody who's good, who wants to stay only a year. So the firm suggests to you that you should hire someone without telling them it's temporary. Keep them for a year, eliminate their job when the project is over. You're potentially asking someone to leave a job that is permanent for one that's not, without being honest with them. Is that who you are? I hope not. And if not, are you strong enough to push back against the suggestion, help your organization understand why that's ultimately bad for them? It's a bad look, you get a bad reputation in the market, and the rest of your employees are afraid that they're suddenly going to lose their jobs. You are also, and I hate to say this, you are also very likely to be asked to do something that is actually illegal. In HR, it's usually an age or disability discrimination situation or a wage and hour violation. The good news is that most of the time, the attorney making the request doesn't realize it's illegal. So those are easy. You point to the law. It's easy to resolve. It's not a problem. But sometimes the person doesn't care, and you have to decide how and to whom to push back, which can be very uncomfortable. From the finance side, it's often improper use of your trust account, although there are plenty of other ways. You do not want to be the person who breaks the law. If you don't hear anything else that I've said today, hear that, please, because now I'm going to give you a big, scary example. Can you scroll for me? Thank you. I want to get this one right. I have notes on this, and I want to get this one right because it's so exact. That's perfect. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. So in 2012, Dewey and LeBoeuf, which had been Dewey Ballantine before they merged, officially closed their doors. They went bankrupt due to a series of poor financial decisions and significant infighting. In the process, before they closed, in an effort to stay in business, they did a number of things financially that were absolutely straight up illegal. Spoiler alert, it did not work. They still went bankrupt. 2 years later, in 2014, 4 senior people at Dewey were indicted because of those activities. But now let me give you some context. In addition to those 4, 7 other people had already pled guilty to various charges of financial mismanagement. Those 7 people had plea agreements in place, so they were cooperating witnesses against the 4 senior leaders who were indicted. All 7 of those people were accounting department employees who had followed the directions of their managers to commit financial fraud. 7 accounting employees pled guilty. And who were the 4 who were indicted? The firm's chairman, the executive director, the chief financial officer, and the client relations manager. That's 11 people in serious legal trouble. Only one of them was a partner. Now, the 4 who were indicted were dirty as hell. They deserved it. But I've read the indictment, and they worked on those accounting employees by saying things like, well, it's just a journal entry. We're going to reverse it next month anyway. If we don't do this, the bank is going to call our loan, and we won't be able to make payroll. And then all your friends are going to lose their jobs. And it's right before the holidays. You wouldn't want your friends to lose their jobs over a journal entry. It's not like we're stealing money. It's so easy to believe that you are not the person who will get into trouble, that it will be the partner, it will be the owner. That's not true. It's just not. 7 people pled guilty, 4 others were indicted. 1 person was a partner. You have to protect yourself. Do not be the person who breaks the law. Okay, sorry, that was heavy. Here's the last one. You've probably all guessed it by now. This is the most important thing you need. It is a sense of humor. You have to have a sense of humor. You're going to see some crazy things in this industry. You're either going to laugh or cry. That's just the way it's going to be. People get upset over the most ridiculous things. I once saw a partner throw away paychecks for 6 months because he thought he was on direct deposit and he was not. Then he blamed the payroll coordinator and he went on a giant rant through the accounting department and he went upstairs to the managing partner and screamed and carried on, to which we all said, how do you not know you're not getting paid for 6 months? Sometimes you just have to laugh. It's easier than crying. It's better than crying. It will keep you moving forward and it will help you focus on the good, interesting, meaningful work that we actually do every day. It's why we all do this for a living. Sense of humor. That's it. That's my list of 10. You can see them all here. I'm sure you guys have other attributes. I don't know if we have any time remaining. But if we do, drop them in the chat. What else did I miss? What other things do you think are important? I would love to hear from you. And while you're doing that, I am going to say thank you to all of you for spending the last hour with me. Thank you to Alan, Debbie, and Rich for inviting me to participate in Lemonade 5 Cinco de Marzo. I'm so excited to have been here with you, and I really appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your lemonade.
No, I really don't care, man. I don't complain.